We had a shocking spectacle last week of the hypocrite Starmer visiting a Holocaust site in Europe, while at the same time arming a Holocaust and a genocide in Gaza. Shame on him. I wanted to speak about the Great Hunger in Ireland in the 1840s and the relevance to today. If one looks at the history of Ireland, it had 800 years of colonisation and everything that happened there. But one of the lessons you learn about colonisation, to enforce a colonisation against the people, you need a racist ideology, and you had that in Ireland from before 1200, when Gerard Russell Whale portrayed the Irish people as inhuman, subhuman, lying with beasts, being incestuous and everything, not obeying the laws of the Church of Man. This was Ireland had been the island of saints of scholars to send scholars across to various parts of Europe during the so-called Dark Ages after the fall of the Roman Empire then. But that was to dehumanise the people, and what follow on would be the taking of the lands and the culture away from the people. I briefly mentioned Oliver Cromwell. There's a big statue of him over there, well protected by the House of Commons, and what he did in Ireland. When he assembled his troops in 1649 in Bristol to go to Ireland to conquer the Irish people, he actually talked, and a bit like Netanyahu used the Bible, that he was going down into the land of Canaan and smite the enemies, that the Irish natives were the enemy and needed to be killed, on the pretext of religion. When he went to Ireland, he slaughtered the people of Drogheda and Wexford. By the time Cromwell was finished in Ireland, 95% of the land belonged to the English. And the population of Ireland decreased by 50% by famine, by massacres, by slaughter and by forced migration from Ireland. Within 6 years of Cromwell conquering Ireland, he took Jamaica. And that shows the interlinks between the conquest of Ireland and then the conquest of very often the New World in terms of British imperialism. Cromwell also deported something like 100,000 Irish people to the Caribbean. Now, historians who are revisionist put these down as indentured. They weren't indentured, and they weren't part of Oliver Cromwell's tours to the Caribbean. They lived and died without getting their freedom. I would not dare to compare the Irish experience of enslavement with that of the black community, which is horrific. The Irish experience does not seem to have gone into the second or third generation. I'd move on briefly to the Great Hunger. In British revisionist historians have labelled it a famine. There was no famine in Ireland. The potato crop in Ireland caused by the blight in 1846 to 1849 was only about 22% of the agricultural produce of Ireland. And if you take, Ireland was then part of the UK. Ireland technically were all British citizens at the time, they were English citizens, because the Act of Union in 1800, Britain just, by bribery and corruption, took over the whole of Ireland. And the potato crop in England and Ireland was only 5% of the total agriculture of East Ireland. If you look at Ireland during this time, ships were leaving Ireland every day, overflowing with cattle, beef, wheat, whiskey, beer, everything possible under the sun, chicken, eggs, everything. The number of cattle in Ireland increased 25% during the Great Starvation. We have called it a genocide, which it was, and it was an armed genocide as well. Frank O'Connor, a great Irish writer, said if you want to call it a famine, you're creating great distortion of history. Now, one of the reasons they gave for the starvation of Ireland was the laissez-faire policy, they call it. You couldn't interfere with the market prices. That is nonsense. He said, and if you look at Ireland at the time, that 100,000 armed soldiers, he says he knew of no country in the world where you needed an armed garrison of over 100,000 soldiers to enforce an economic policy. So you see, in Ireland, they have no images because there was no photography around at the time of the Great Hunger. We had the first images of Great Hunger was the Great Hunger, the Great Starvation in Bengal in 1871, and they're the first one. I have an image here taken from the Great Hunger. It's of Bridget O'Donnell, a woman from County Clare with her 2 children. Her husband had died of hunger, and within 3 weeks of this sketch, the 2 children, and she was dead as well. But I bring her here outside of Parliament because the people responsible for the death were the people over there, Lord John Russell, Trevelyan and all the other people. So you see, I go back to Cromwell briefly. Cromwell had a policy in Ireland where he said to hell or to Connacht, and that was the movement of the people from the best parts of Ireland to Connacht, which was a more barren part of the country, rocks and less farming, and so he moved the people deliberately in the middle of winter time. So people have a great memory of that in Ireland. It's one of the reasons why Irish people stand with the Palestinian people, that they were moved around Ireland and they were forced there as well. We found the lessons of history are there. British imperialism led to American imperialism. The hearts are here in Britain. It went with when they went to America, when they set it up. And that is why Britain today supports American imperialism in Israel and in the genocide. We had a shocking spectacle last week of the hypocrite Starmer visiting a Holocaust site in Europe, while at the same time arming a Holocaust and a genocide in Gaza. Shame on him. Okay, I'll say I'd like to bring solidarity to the people of Gaza today, and we need to stand with them and stay with them, and we must be the guarantees of that ceasefire, because in the past Israeli has never respected any ceasefire. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you.